Welcome to Subscription Prescription, the podcast where you get the information you need to scale your subscription program. All right, welcome to another dose of Subscription Prescription, the podcast where we try to help you understand everything related to D2C subscriptions. I'm excited for a very special dose today because we are podcasting live from SubSummit at the Bold Podcast Studio stage. And I'm also equally excited to be joined by somebody that I look up to and admire, Mr. Ryan Rouse, the newly president of MALK Organics. Ryan, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Before we get in, I do want to make a call out to one of our special partners that's here at the show, ChargeFlow. If you're dealing with chargebacks in your business, which everyone is, I highly suggest you reach out to them to get a free audit of your program and see how much money you could be saving on chargebacks. Ryan, again, I think when this opportunity came up, you're one of the very few people on LinkedIn that I actually have on alert to see posts, because I just really like how you talk about business strategy, life, work-life balance. You kind of approach all of that holistically. So for me personally, it's good to have you on here, but it just so happens you're actually incredibly successful when it comes to CPG and e-commerce in general. So do you mind telling everybody a little bit more about yourself, about your background in that space?
Yeah, so what's relevant here is I am a co-founder of Factor Meals, which is, maybe one of the original D2C subscription-only brands out there. We started that, a buddy of mine from college and it was his idea actually. He brought me in pre-launch, and in 2013 launched at the time not subscription-only, but started Factor, built that eventually exited in 2020. I left the day-to-day in 2017 and have been involved in a number of different consumer businesses, in-house, out-house, consulting, in every different form and factor, with a lot of different traditional CPG businesses, largely looking at their growth, their marketing, their subscription, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and so instead of necessarily talking about like some tips or tricks you'd have to increase subscriber acquisition, we're actually going to go a little bit high level from a strategy perspective, which is like how we can redefine subscriptions. So I'll just start by saying, I think this topic is exciting to me because I think the mistake, even at a subscription conference, is that we become obsessed with just getting subscribers or how our subscribers are doing instead of understanding who our most profitable customers are, right? Like it could be somebody that buys from you every other week, but they're not on a subscription. That customer can be more profitable than a subscription customer. For you, what does it mean to be focusing on the difference between active subscribers versus active customers?
I think what you're looking for is active customers, right? There's a number of levers that you can pull in order to get more active customers. Subscription's one of them, and a big one. Right? Everyone knows the data behind LTV of a subscriber versus non-subscriber. But what you do when you myopically focus on subscription only is you force subscription down customers' throats, maybe earlier than they might want. Maybe they never want it. And I can't tell you how many businesses, yourself probably included in this, is understanding that they are leaving out a large subset of customers who buy one-time purchase, would continue to buy one-time purchase over and over and over again, and they're not focusing on them. From the email follow-up to the offerings that they're making them to discounting. And so to me, the North Star metric is active customers. How you get them to be an active customer is the conversation we can have, but you can't be myopically focused on active subscribers.
So how do you start looking at that differently? Is that like I'm trying to look at a better dashboard in Shopify? How should I be thinking about getting into the difference between an active customer and an active subscriber?
Yeah, I think start with a time frame. What's a realistic time frame whereby you would say they are active? Typically 45 to 60 days, let's call it, for most consumer products. So how many customers have placed an order in the last 45 to 60 days that are not new customers? Remove them. That's your active customer base. Okay. You can then look at how many of those are subscribers, and you can try to move people into that subscription bucket. But I would go from all customer bucket, remove new customers from this. All customers ordering, right? How many are active? That's the one I care about. Within that, we can say how many are one-time versus subscription. Mm-hmm. But that is the one you care about. If you're growing that number, you're winning.
Okay. And so one, I want to be tracking that as a metric to see how that's 100%. Working, right? And then it's not just so that I can identify everybody I need to highlight with a subscription offer, although I could do that as a means of doing that. What are some other elements or tactics that you've seen work that are trying to increase that active customer number so that people are purchasing more from you, whether it's a subscription or not?
Sure. Easy button is give them the same discount you would give a subscriber.
Okay.
Right? If we can get into how you sequence that. There's a number of ways to test when you offer that alongside subscription. But to me, if you're willing to give a subscriber a discount if they continue to order, then I don't see why you wouldn't be willing to give a customer who's willing to order regularly that same discount. So I would start with that.
Okay. So we're using email marketing, we're using discounts, creating some segments or flows that are targeting those types of customers.
Yes.
Okay. What are some other ways you think about from a cadence sequencing standpoint, or like, is there any other way to start honing in or highlighting that? Or is there a different experience in subscriptions that you've seen work really well for like repeat customers?
Yeah, I think there's a big conversation lately around membership,
right,
and how you define membership versus subscription. I think if you can aim to get members that have a bunch of different options, benefits, discounts, flavor drops, whatever those may be, the option to give them recurring delivery is one of those things they could use, and giving them discounts is another. But to make it a little bit more actionable, I think if you start with the post-purchase flows with email, with SMS, you've got one-time purchase that traditionally, what I've seen is a lot of companies will have one or two emails after that for a non-subscriber where they're just pushing subscription very, very hard, and then they sort of forget. They fall into the campaign bucket, so they're emailing them regularly, putting them in campaigns, sales, etc. But they're not building on a journey that they're not giving them the same TLC that they would give a subscriber.
Right. It makes me think of something like Jimmy Kim talks about with like when he's talking about that, you should get somebody who hasn't bought from you yet off the list as quickly as possible, but then somebody who's bought from you, you're trying to create a tailored or custom experience for them so they're going to want to buy again from you. And so instead of necessarily just investing and pushing that. So when we think about that active subscriber list and like email marketing, we're trying to find incentives to try to accelerate a repurchase rate. Do you see that works better based on vertical, or does it come down to offer? What are some factors that you think, and again, if we're saying factor, it's not a pun. What are some factors that influence repeat purchase rate or that active customer rate, you think, in addition to just, saying like the email stuff is one way to do it. What are tactics or industry-specific things that work to try to get somebody to purchase again quickly?
Yeah, I think the important thing to understand is does your product set up well to recurring orders? And it's okay if it doesn't, but I think everyone starts a consumer business believing wholeheartedly that everyone could subscribe to this and order this regularly. And you can build a really good business where your repeat purchase rate is less than what you would think it would be, i.e. if you think once every 30 days is sort of a regular cadence, once every 70 days could work. You have to make a lot of other things on the finance side work, but understanding what is really the consumption behavior of this product for the real consumer.
Okay.
And then I would just build around that. I would understand what that is, be realistic about it. And why that matters is because if you consider anyone who hasn't ordered in 60 days a fallen off customer, and you're bludgeoning them now with win-back offers or whatever you do, or maybe nothing if you don't even have those in place, it's not normal, and it's not right for the consumer if they don't feel like they've fallen off and you do.
Right.
So starting with being realistic, what is the normal consumption behavior for a normal?
Because I hate when I get an email to buy something again like 2 days after I got it, right?
Right.
But then I also don't want to get something 2 years later, right? So it sounds like you're saying like understanding like, so a brand in Utah that I really love is Kizik. They sell shoes, right? And so like they were lamenting a little bit about how infrequently people buy shoes from them, right?
Yeah.
So it's like trying to figure out so are you saying like you understand what your typical repurchase rate is, and then you're starting to understand like, okay, what can we build around to accelerate that a little bit? But so for example, if it's 6 months, I'm not going to be peppering everybody at month 3 trying to get them to order at month 3. I'm trying to maybe at month 5, I'm starting this process to re-engage, or I'm re-engaging with them consistently across time, or how are you?
Yeah. Well, I think the entire, email and SMS is the easiest thing to just orient around.
Sure.
There's others, but the automated flows that you set up on some sort of timeline, I think the default for consumer brands is to just have it be 30 days. This is the date, so extend it if necessary.
Okay.
Right? And then speak to your customers regularly in between there. The tendency within that first 30 days is to push whatever you're trying to push onto them, which is ordering,
right,
versus just walking them into the family. And that sounds very sort of, esoteric and
Yeah, but I mean, when we're talking subscriptions, I think that's the kind of the opportunity. I mean, if you think about a subscriber, we were just talking on another podcast right before this about like how you're trying to onboard people to the product and making sure that they're using it and that they're liking it. But actually, now that we're having this conversation, I'm not sure that's actually an email flow that's actually built out for non-subscribers typically. Like if somebody's buying protein powder for me, great, here you go. Here's some success stories. That's it. Not, I'm trying to make sure that this is the most great experience so that you'll stay, not cancel.
The real easy button here is to take everything you're doing for subscribers and do it for active customers, right? Do it for one-time purchase customers such that they can become active customers, and don't worry if they subscribe or not.
Okay.
You can have those peppered in. I think a great tactic there is in campaigns. I'm a big fan of having the bottom banner in campaign emails, broadcast emails, whether they're sales or content or otherwise. Have it be the next stage in the journey for that particular customer, right? So if it's an active customer who's a subscriber, refer a friend.
Right.
If it's an active customer, non-subscriber, have the subscribe and save. It's very subtle, right? But you're not pushing it on them. You're just putting content in emails, right? If it's a lead, then it's first-time customer offer. But I think really simply, it's treat them as if you would a subscriber, inclusive of the discount and all the TLC that you give them, the brand story and the unboxing.
Yeah, exactly. All that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I really like how you're going this. Okay, cool. Are there some other elements outside of email SMS? Like, are we talking social or community or like other elements that you've seen brands leverage this to try to create more of like a special TLC?
Yeah, I'll go back to membership, and I don't want to use membership too strictly. When we talk about welcoming to the family, which is a very cliche sort of email subject line, and when someone places an order or joins your email list, let's actually use this to say each of these things are options within you being a part of our community.
Right.
You have benefits. You can do recurring deliveries. You cannot, but you're going to get a discount if you want. What are you giving your subscribers that you could actually give to the people who are part of your active, engaged community? And I would think about it starting from a community perspective. What are you doing for all those people? And include them in that conversation.
Again, you're making me think of all the things I'm doing for subscribers already. It's like, okay, if I'm selling a really fun coffee brand, I'm making sure that subscription is named something a little bit more clever than subscribe and save. So it has this club feel to it. When I'm sending my welcome emails, I'm making sure it has that club feel to it. But you're saying like that actually can be attributed to like both sides of the table. You're trying to get people to feel like they're included or a part of something. If that's something you're trying to show them that there's all these other options available to them. Okay. Yeah. That makes
sense. Why should flavor drops be only for subscribe and save customers? Subscribe and save is actually recurring deliveries. In my world, I define it as you are signed up for recurring deliveries or you are not signed up for recurring deliveries. If you're an active customer in my world, I want to treat you the same no matter if you're in recurring deliveries or not in recurring deliveries. So I just think it's a framing of like, this is a thing that people choose to do. They don't want to worry about reordering. And sure, they're going to reorder more because it's automatic. But.
Well, again, it's interesting because, again, my mindset or my philosophy has always been we're trying to create this exclusive feel around subscriptions. There's certain things that you can only get because you're on a subscription, because you're trying to push people onto that. But again, if we unpack that a little bit more, the whole reason we're trying to get somebody on a subscription is to increase LTV because subscribers we know stick around longer.
Yep.
But from what you're saying, it's actually more about if I can create an experience that engages active customers and increases my amount of active customers, it's going to have the same net effect on my business as a subscriber.
Yeah, and it's going to be more work, which is okay. But I don't think people are not willing to put the work in, but they don't think about it as something that it may be one of the biggest levers every consumer brand has on the online side is to take a look at that bucket of people who did order one time. Within some short period of time, 45 days, and just put some effort into that group. That can then build, right? You don't have to build the whole thing, build it one brick at a time. So just start to put some attention behind those people. Start to put the perks behind those people. Start to call them whatever you call them.
Right. Something, yeah. Well, I mean, you say it's hard, but in many ways, actually, I think the subscriber experience is actually in many ways harder because I'm trying to figure out the levers that's going to get somebody to want to value this and hop onto that instead of just know, hey, I know that people really like this stuff, so I'm going to offer it to everybody so that they can stay engaged and they stay active.
Yeah, and look, peppering subscription recurring deliveries into that, peppering that in as you go, of course do that. Ultimately, the people who are on automated deliveries are going to order more frequently. That's a win. So we're just talking about the difference between going hard at the people who order one-time purchase right after they order the first time and then forgetting about them for life, or spending the amount of time after the fact to try to move them over.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I want to ask you kind of like a slightly different direction question, and this just relates to like understanding like more profitable segments. Like a speech actually I heard last year here at SubSummit was like the head of data at Google talking about how even Fortune 500 brands don't really understand the difference between their top 20% versus their top 20% customers. Is that a mentality you look at, like where you're segmenting even within active customers, is trying to understand who's actually spending more and who's more profitable, and I'm trying to build a different experience for them or trying to engage with them more?
Yes. Short answer is yes. I think, think of all consumer businesses. What you want to understand is your most profitable, let's say, consumer brand that's in retail and online. Right. Always want to track contribution margin down to the customer level. Those are retailers, the SKU level. And when you're online, a lot of that stuff gets lost, and you're just tracking contribution margin at the channel level of online, D2C or Amazon. But absolutely, why wouldn't you take that same methodology to say which of these customers actually drive profit into our business? How many of them are there? And we're just talking about buckets. Everyone wants data. So these are buckets of people that if you're moving more people into those buckets that are better for you, either that's from active customers to non to active, or in this case, regular power users.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot of information to be found in how many customers you have that are driving the majority of your revenue. When you get to customizing the experience, I think that's where it can get complex and be a lot of work, and maybe that juice isn't worth the squeeze, but it probably is. But
I think you start to identify like what makes these people different? Is it what they bought? Is it where they are? Is it who they are? Is it a use case related to the product that they see that's more valuable? Because if I can start to understand that, then I can build an experience.
1,000,000%. That is the value of that. Not so much customizing and moving people into that per se, but who are they?
Right.
What is the overlapping element or elements of these people, so that we can go find more of them?
Yeah, I mean that's the funny thing is like because that's how what ties this whole thing for me together. It's like if we start thinking about who our best customers are or who's going to spend with us, then we're going to enable the experiences that work for them, whether that's a subscription or a membership or like repeat deliveries. And again, the story I like to use all the time is I've been on a Dollar Shave Club subscription for like 7 years. I have never bought a single upsell. Yeah. I've never I don't open their marketing emails. I literally only log in to change my schedule or whatever. So, but I'd be curious to talk to their team internally to find out, am I an ideal customer for you because I've been on for 7 years, or am I not an ideal customer because I've never bought anything else?
So that's Manscaped for me, 100%. Once a quarter, I get a box. I forget that it's coming. I open it, I use it because I'm like, oh shit, I got it. Right. Might as well use it. I've never been treated differently. I'm okay with that, but what if I was? Right. What if I was treated differently? What if someone gave me a phone call? Or what if there was something in my box that's like, hey, you ordered quarterly for 5 years. We want to thank you for that. Right. Maybe I would jump to their site. I have not, just like you, I've not been to their site in, years. Yeah. Not looked at anything. They probably have 50 new SKUs now since I ordered the first time. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's a good question. Okay, Ryan, any final thoughts related to increasing active customers, engaging with active customers, like building a better brand or anything in your experience that you'd like to share with everybody?
I think I don't want to move away from subscription. We are at SubSummit. So don't take anything I say as that subscription doesn't matter. It does. I just think expanding your definition of it will serve you very, very well. And then if you layer on top what you just said about really putting your customers into buckets, the data part of this is where I think a lot of brands get tripped up. They don't have the They don't have the people with the resources, and then they're like, well, once we have this, what are we going to actually do with it? There's 5 of us or 10 of us, or there's no one on that. Just put them into buckets. These are buckets that I want to move people towards, whether that's best performing customers, whether that's active customers, whether that's subscribers. And I think things become a little bit easier when you start to think about the tactics that you can use.
It is funny, talking about like meal prep or dieting or things like that, it's like what do they say, that the first best step for losing weight is actually just tracking what you eat.
Just look at it.
You just don't know until you actually start tracking it.
And I'll tell you a funny story. We started Factor as we were going to be the one meal delivery company that didn't have subscription.
Okay.
Because we were the customer, right? And we're like, hey, no one likes subscription. Everyone hates automated deliveries. No one wants to be sucked into that. So we were going to be the one that didn't do subscription. we started calling all of our customers after they would fall off, and we'd ask them why they didn't order again. And the ones that didn't like the food, pretty obvious. Right. The ones that said, we love the food, just didn't, I forgot. So we switched to subscription only, and it's one of the things in the early years that set our business up. Now, the important point from that, it's interesting and funny because we're like, it goes against saying like, I'm the customer, I know what I don't want. This is similar to founders saying they don't want to email their list because I don't like getting a lot of emails, right? So you have to market your business. And so, but I think the takeaway there is everyone else in the category was subscription only. So it's okay. You can go subscription only if they don't have another option. Mm-hmm. And in the case of a lot of consumer businesses now who might think about going subscription only, that doesn't work if everyone else in your category isn't that.
Right.
So it's just, all these things to think about. But I think the big one is you are not your customer in some senses, and in others you are. So if you are your demographic, your psychographic customer who has the needs and wants and desires of the product that you sell, that is meaningful. But you are not your customer from a marketing perspective. Right.
No, and I love that too because so many brands, we want to like say if I'm selling a bag of coffee, I want everybody to buy this on 2 weeks, but maybe like 70% of my subscribers actually really want it for 6 weeks. So like I start trying to push 2 weeks, and my business is failing, and then I switch to 6 weeks. It's much lower from a contribution margin standpoint, at least on paper, and yet that's actually what people want to be able to get, right?
They stay longer.
Right.
It's a great point, 60-day subscription option.
Yep.
I mean, how many do you see are just 30 days, 45 days?
Most of them are 30
right.
days. Yeah.
So go try a 60-day. If the consumer behavior, just see what happens. You might just find that more people are willing to subscribe because that's their behavior.
I mean, I've got a client right now that their 90-day subscription outperforms their 1 month subscription on conversion and retention.
No kidding. So test it. The takeaway is test it. If you don't know until you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, have strong beliefs, hold them loosely because why not?
Yeah. So we got to challenge everything you can, all your assumptions.
That's right. We don't know anything, really. We don't know.
There's so many stories of my business and other businesses I've worked with where they literally think it's this, and then you sell this, but everybody's bought for a totally different reason.
Yeah.
And it's like not even on your product page or anything.
And I would view it as the fun part. The fun part of this is, all of this worked at my last place, whatever that was. So rather than come in and do all of those things, do everything different.
Right.
Try everything different. The people that are winning are going outside the lines. They're coloring outside the lines. They're not staying squarely in them. And we're living in a world where things are changing rapidly. Right. So why not change your tactics also?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that reminds me of a story for, like, again, SubSummit, Chris George and Paul Chambers and all these guys that started Gentleman's Box. They were a monthly subscription. They switched to a quarterly subscription that cost more and was more premium, and conversions increased and retention increased.
So think through in the room, right, where they're like, hey, someone's got an idea, let's increase the cost, and let's extend the subscription.
Well, they got feedback. People had product fatigue, and they were price sensitive. So like, all right, if we ship it less frequently, they won't get product fatigue, but if we ship it less frequently, we got to charge more to make it, so our business survives.
So like novel concept, talk to your customers, right? Figure out why they're not.
That's why I'm always harping on like surveys, post-purchase, periodically calling, spending all that time getting feedback so you understand people.
There's so much cliche in business. That's why LinkedIn and Twitter can be a little bit cringe or a lot.
Here's another post about talking to your customers.
That's right. But
it's true.
I mean, cliches are cliches for a reason. Like, give them a call, talk to them. I would be willing to bet that if the first thing you did stepping into a business was just call a bunch of customers, if you have that type of information, many are willing. This goes back to like, I wouldn't want a phone call. Why would I call other people?
Right.
You'd be surprised people are willing to talk, especially older generation. They want to talk. They'll give you all the information.
And I think too, with like, if you're talking about the subscription business, we're often talking about things that are somewhat life-changing, whether that's a supplement or something that's affecting your routine or your lifestyle. Like, do you think that people don't want to give feedback onto a product they're using consistently or even semi-regularly? Like, in general, people are going to want to tell you what's good or bad or what you could do better.
Dying to. Yeah. And you can decide how much weight to put on that feedback.
Yeah,
I'd say the same thing for marketing. There's often this friction between sales and marketing, or anyone else in the organization and marketing, right? There's a lot of funny memes about this. Right, everyone at the company, the CEO, sending the marketing leader an idea. Like, hey, we should do this, and everyone just rolling their eyes. Fair. Many of these ideas are bad, but you can include a lot of people at the company in what you're trying to do from a marketing perspective. Just have an all hands. I'm going to do that at MALK, have an all hands optional. Say, hey, what
You're
do you guys
literally stealing my podcast episode from like a couple weeks ago where I'm literally like, get the team, whiteboard all the reasons why everybody thinks they buy, all the things people don't like, and just having that up on a board, you're going to say, oh, we could connect these two things and it would fix that problem.
And there's people at your company, to your point, you're saying your customers care, they're willing to give you feedback. The people at your company care deeply about your company. And whether they feel heard or don't feel heard doesn't really matter. Have an inclusive conversation that can be very jovial. Have it at a happy hour. Make it fun so it's not boring and no one wants to show up. But get ideas from everyone. And then you decide how much weight to put on them. You don't have to take all those ideas.
And you can prioritize what you want to test and go through and get
Yeah.
Awesome. Ryan, it was an absolute pleasure. I would say anybody listening, if you're not already following Ryan on LinkedIn, I highly recommend for anybody trying to run a business, grow a business, understand how the CPG space works. Again, you're one of those few people out there that I think just is a no nonsense, no bullshit, sharing the truth. So, dude,
appreciate it, brother.
I appreciate you coming on so much.
Thanks a lot. All right, thanks, man.
All right, everybody, and again, thank you from SubSummit. And stay tuned for next week's dose. That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe so that you can get notified when new episodes come out each week on Tuesdays.